Good evening. This is Michael Reddy here. This is home altar training version 7, class number 7. We will have a bonus class, class number 8. Got that planned already. Tonight, I want to just catch up on the last of the lecture stuff very quickly and then move to a constellation which Kat Troyer has very graciously shared with us. So the study questions last time didn't make any sense because I didn't talk about the things that the study questions were about, though you could have gotten them from the readings too. So I want to make sure that I cover those things tonight very quickly anyway. You know, I told you that there's a certain point in the constellation where you shift from branching to pruning. So the butterfly is branching. The butterfly is just creating more, you know, grabbing more flowers and, you know, moving around and not getting fixated on anything. And at some point, which often for me is an hour and a half into a 2-hour constellation, that late, it starts to shift into, well, there's some major bouquet or bouquets here that somehow fit together, and we reach this turning point where we start to focus more. And now we're doing a bit less of the butterfly, though not abandoning the butterfly completely, because the butterfly is very useful in nudging people. I'll say that in a second. And at that point, we're beginning to look for how can this system move towards a more supportive shape. And we're dealing with 2 levels always. One is the objects, their symbolisms, and their pattern on the board, which is the kind of physical and, you know, mental symbolic level. And then we're also dealing with the fact that this thing in front of us, if we're doing it right, has captured a resonance with the deeper spiritual, quantum, I don't know, some kind of deeper reality. And we are not just dealing anymore with little object people. We're dealing with little object people, or in a workshop with, you know, human people that have picked up and established a significant resonance with a family, a system, whatever it is we've tried to set up. And we are now going to start to try to do something more called, you know, the first part of this is like divination. It's like the I Ching, like throwing the bones, right? Like a tarot reading. You don't plan it. It happens. It connects and it brings you information. The second part of it is more like sympathetic magic. We hope that by actually, with respect and conscious loving attention to what's going on this deeper level, we can, yeah, Linda, you got to mute. Yeah, you mute. Okay. We can shift the deeper reality by shifting the little object people that we've set up. So you got 6 techniques for working with the thing. You know, these are your kind of landing gear, your takeoff points: silence check-ins, repositionings, tentative truth statements, representative changes, perspective shifts. As you know, when you have an altar and it's set up, you should be doing these things with it in visits that are iterative visits that build on one another over a period of time. And as you move into this resolution phase, you got 3 more to add. I think we've already talked about ancestral backing. We put, you know, support in somehow. Some object person that may represent a grandparent or a whole line of grandmothers or a whole line of grandfathers, or something spiritual if that's appropriate. And in addition to ancestral banking, we've got this thing that I call nudges, not fudges. So as you reach this point in a constellation, you're trying to nudge the players in the constellation towards speaking the underlying truths, the covert loyalties, the unspoken things that are causing the system to function the way it does, that are blocking your client or your own desired positive change. So, you know, you put into the mouth of someone, and again, we go back to the terrible migraines fade constellation. You know, the big nudge to grandfather was, hey, that's your grandson over there. Look at him. He's doing the morning for the whole family. You guys are all you guys are all blocked about this. You're bitter and against one another, and you can't look at even look at your grandchild here. Your grandchild is busy mourning your oldest son. How do you feel about that? Could you just turn around and even look at? And the butterfly comes back in here, because I will do something like that and I will walk away and leave that. I'll plant the seed and not push. And, fudges, there's two varieties of fudges. One is where, well, I just grab grandfather and I turn him around and I get grandmother and I put grandmother next to him and I have them face their child and I force them to say, we love you and we mourn you. Do you understand me? Which is like, putting the family in order. But we've totally ignored the deeper level here, because we don't know that by doing that, we don't know that the energies in those now, in spirit people, we don't know that they're willing to do that at all. We've just forced it. The other kind of a fudge, in my opinion, is, I go around and I just keep focusing on grandfather. Well, come on, I really wish, come on, sure you, oh, come on, you got to do this. You got to do this. Your kid's going to keep on suffering unless you do this. Come on, got to do it, got to do it. And that may sound strange to you, but I've seen, I hope that it's been 3 or 4 years, 5 years even since I've seen something like this in constellation workshops, because I'm not going to them anymore. My focus has moved on to energy psychology and things like that. But I mean, I've seen constellations where the whole circle is now focused on one representative for like half an hour. You got to do this. Otherwise, it's going to keep suffering. It's never going to work if you don't do this. All right. I think that is totally counterproductive. You will peel the resonance away. The social pressure on that representative will cause the representative eventually to cave in and abandon the ancestor. Does that make sense? They'll just do it. They'll go, okay, leave me alone. I'll say whatever you want. Somebody's smiling who's apparently seen this. So that's a fudge. There's those two kinds of fudges. One is, the nudge is, hey, put an idea in somebody's, put a tentative, ask somebody if they can say something, and just keep it experimental. And the same thing with your object persons. Pick up your object person or focus on it however you do, and say, well, what would happen if you said this? And then be that, feel into being that, and see what it feels like. You will get good at this if you will just play with it, and you will stay light. It's childlike. And it's hard for us Westerners, in a sense, to believe that it works, in a sense. Do you understand me? Because we're supposed to outgrow being childlike. We're supposed to leave the things of a child behind. So there's these other 3 tools that you've got as you start to move into this phase. There are, okay, when are you done? When do you know a constellation is done? Well, sometimes you're just going to feel it's done and that's that. Are you Yeah, go ahead. Linda, is that? You're
Okay,
still, there you go.
now yeah, I just unmuted. So you said there are three. So you said there's the ancestral backing and the nudges, not fudges. What's the third one?
I don't know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wait a minute. I didn't do 3, did I? I would
No?
have to go grab my book and look. It's a good question. I will write you or post something about it.
Okay, I don't know.
Thank you for catching me.
Sure.
No, it's good. I don't know, my outline doesn't make it clear. Okay, so when are you done? Well, sometimes the constellation just moves on its own. You don't have to do anything, and it basically tells you we're done. Go ahead, Linda.
Healing sentences was the third one.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, okay. So thank you so much. Healing sentences are these things that come at the very end, which are designed to embed a new felt image. They're designed to strengthen a resolution that's happened. All right. And you know, my standard healing sentences always contain "I'm little, you're big," some version of that's too, you know, I've been carrying blah, blah, blah for you. It's too much for me. It's better if I give it back to you. And I do that. And then this, what I think is this very, very important sentence that says, support me now, please, if I do such and such successfully or live headache free or whatever the DPC is, in honor of all that you went through to give me life in the first place. I have found that a very, very powerful and profound statement to remind them and the client, like all this suffering, all the mistakes you made, all the bad things you did to me, they're still all in the name of this gift of life that you gave me. And so in the name of that gift, I ask you to take your stuff back, take your own fate back. Let me live free of your fate and let me move the family forward. Otherwise, we just all keep suffering the same way. You know, I've had, everybody knows this. I mean, I've had Jewish clients who are 3 generations from the Holocaust who are suffering intensely out of resonance with what sometimes not even their ancestors, just their ethnic, you know, and religious group went through. It is our strength in a way that we can do these things, that we can carry this stuff for each other. But at the same time, it's not your fate. I keep going back to my story is I did not live through Battle of Okinawa and World War II. So at a certain point, you know, I got to stop carrying that for my dad. Okay, thank you, Linda. Thank you very much. So sometimes the constellation is just done, and it may or may not be clear to you why it's done. But I mean, an obvious way that you know it's done is that your desired positive change starts to manifest, especially if you've instantiated it and you've started to see that happen. And then there's sort of 3. I recognize 3 kinds of resolutions, maybe 4 if we talk about the spontaneous one that you don't really fully understand, but it's there and it's something has happened. But in terms of the ones that you understand, there's, you know, a focused resolution to me is a resolution that moves the client and the whole system towards support, towards the desired positive change. It's focused because it doesn't necessarily fix every problem in the family system. It doesn't put the whole family in order. All right, there may still be things that it's obvious that need to be dealt with. That's fine. you rest a little bit, you come back to it. If you're in the business of doing constellations, that's good. You don't really want to try to do everything at once. It's bad for the client and it's not good for your business. If you try to do too much, you will often weaken the one or two things that are really important. So a global resolution is this phony one that just like put the whole system in order. Get mom and dad lined up behind the client, get the client facing the desired positive change, and have them say some words, and that's that. And it tries to kind of fix everything. Well, we're going to deal with grandmother's problems, and it's just very common for me. Those of you who've done constellations with me know this, that we'll do a major piece of work, and there's another one kind of waiting in the wings, but it couldn't really be done. It's a layer that gets kind of revealed when we do the first piece of work. The other kind of resolution, I call it a null resolution. I don't know, the word is just a word, but sometimes all you can do is to state the problems. So you put tentative true statements, you ask the players, you ask your little object persons, you help them, you feel into being them, and you say what it seems to be is the hang-up. If the system speaks what's really going on in it, even though nobody is willing to change, do you understand me? Nobody is willing to move yet. It is still a big step forward to simply have it all out in the open. And that's what I call a null resolution, because it's a resolution, it's important. There might be a better word for it, I don't know. But that, in my experience, since I do work with people more on an ongoing basis as opposed to one-shot workshop thingies where I never see the person again, that lays the groundwork for another, you come back 3 months later. I remember one person in particular who every time she came back, another deeper layer of what was going on came up, and finally a very, very profound resolution happened. But it took it was in 3 constellations over about 9 months, actually. This was back when I was doing workshops. So that null resolution is just simply, and when you don't know what to do, when you see this mess in all its glory, you think, God, what a mess. These people, this one doesn't like, and that one's connected, and this one can't move because of, and no. Just see if you can't put tentative true statements into the mouths of the people. Or in this case, you have to see, that's the difference between this and the workshops, is you have to be everybody if you're doing your own work. If you're working with a client, you take turns and you compare notes. That makes sense, right? And I almost never speak my own, results of feeling into somebody before the client, because I don't want them, because they'll think I'm the authority and I don't want to undermine their perception of things. And often those are different, and that's okay. Often the fact that they may be different, that one says, the client says one thing and feels one thing and I feel another, that's fine. We just fold that into the mix here, right? It may be that the client is looking at an aspect I'm not, or feeling into an aspect I'm not. It may be that the client doesn't want to deal with the truth that seems to come through to me. There could be a lot of options, but it's not a problem. Don't be thrown by that. Just the same thing, put it in the basket and wait for it to start making sense. Okay. Now, if you've done a constellation and you've gotten, you're just you're stumped. There's nothing that's emerged that seems to help or make sense. You want to go back and look at some things. The first thing I really would urge you to look at is, did you focus the desired positive change? Now, not all constellators work like this. I'm just very solution focused. It's just, I've just found it works best. So, did you really focus your desired positive change, or is it just something very vague in general? Did you really follow the guidelines? I mean, be honest with yourself. Did you visit regularly? Did you try to play with the tools I've given you? If the thing is focused and you've done your best to do what you can with the techniques, then it's, the next thing here is, well, you may have just gone off on the wrong track. Right? The symbols that got assembled into this or that bouquet and became a kind of what looked like a dynamic, maybe it was just wrong. Maybe it's just, it happens. It's happened to me in workshops too. A couple of times I've just said, we're just going to have to start this constellation over. The energy here is either just totally confused or there just isn't energy. I don't think any of you need to deal with this, but in the book I talked about people who just it's not going to work because they don't believe that it can work. They don't have any faith in this kind of a process. I doubt that's true for anybody in this class. You've all had experiences enough of various kinds that lead you to believe that this can make sense. There's, if you're dealing with diseases and things like this, sometimes you will just get, the disease or the problem or the physical somatic thing will sometimes, it'll just go away or it'll get less on its own. Like the migraines, they lessened immediately and they always came in the fall. And next fall, they didn't come at all. So we knew we were done. Good, fine. Sometimes it might be that some medication or something that you tried before, right? That, well, now it works. Didn't work before. I try to work with, like I have a client in Austin right now who went to a very good, I don't know what, somebody who was more than just a drug prescribing psychiatrist, and he got her on something and it helped the work that we were doing immensely. And at a certain point, we're going to go back and try to see if we can lessen those medications, because if she stays on them, it's fine. The Whitaker's book, Anatomy of an Epidemic, is this landmark study of psychoactive, antidepressants and these various drugs that affect the brain. The studies that support them are almost all short-term studies, and they are helpful in the short term, but they're extremely damaging over a 2, 3, 4, 5-year period. So, she's a lot better. We're both very happy. She's on a kind of plateau. I'm just kind of keeping tabs on her while she gets kind of grounded in feeling better and being able to work on her business and design things again and just get that established. And then we'll go back and say, well, maybe you can just talk to your doctor guy and let's see if we can drop the dose of medication by a quarter. You understand me? We'll shave off a quarter of the pills, or prescribe them in less strength or something, or take them less often, but just gradually see, because, the truth is, if we do that, the inner stuff is gonna come up again. Because right now it's shut down in a certain sense because of the impact of the drugs. But we needed that in order to get her to a stable enough position to do the work. So sometimes it'll just be, hey, something that, the pills that didn't work before, now they work. That's fine. That's a form of success. And the other thing I want to say here is, there's another analogy for you. I view ancestral trauma as opposed to personal trauma. As like, here, imagine a boat, sailboat or some motorboat or whatever, right? The personal trauma affects the crew and the motor, the engine. Ancestral trauma is like anchors that are, lodged. So the boat is anchored. And what we do when we clear an ancestral trauma is we get that anchor up. And sometimes the boat's ready to go. It hasn't got learned helplessness affecting it. So the motor, the crew could start the motor and they can just roll right off or raise the sails or whatever it is. Sometimes there's another anchor down. But regardless of the anchors, there's still this case of if it's been anchored for a long time and the crew has tried over and over again to get it moving and it won't move, they are very likely to be affected by what's called learned helplessness, which is, they don't even know how to start the motor anymore, or they don't know how to raise the sails anymore. And in that case, in my case, I switch into coaching mode and start working again, solution focused around, okay, what are our strategies for, you're free of it in a sense now. You're able, but you don't have the habits that will move, move you. So I want to put that distinction in your head. All right, any questions? I rolled on for a little bit there. I didn't stop for questions. Thoughts? What do you think?
As usual, I love your metaphors. The anchor is a great metaphor.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Mike, you just you used the word earlier, but didn't lecture about it. And I wonder if you'd talk just a little bit about instantiating a desired positive change.
All right. First of all, it's in that blog, right?
Yes.
5 steps. And this approach is when you get somebody to, that you first, typically you get a problem. This doesn't work. Then I'll ask people, well, okay, just turn that around. Tell me, give me a sentence in which you state that it's working. What does that sound like? Oftentimes that's very general. And then I do Milton Erickson's thing, although somebody said it was Steve DeShazer or some, I don't know where this goes back to, but, put yourself 6 weeks out, put yourself a month out. What is happening that shows you, give me an example or two, a concrete example or two of something that's happening different in your life that shows you that this change has happened. Margie, does that make sense?
Yes. Am I muted? No, I'm not. Yes, it does. Yeah.
Like what, tell me, give me a couple examples of something that happens. So can I use your thing as an example, Kat? So Kat has desired positive change of reaching a certain weight loss goal. And that's great. Is it going to happen in one fell swoop? No, it's probably going to take some sustained effort over a period of time. Not necessarily very long, but maybe something on the order of some months or something. So we went through this instantiation process and moved it to, well, okay, the thing that I'm after is I want to see myself losing 5 pounds a month. Right, Kat?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that is now that's a concrete felt thing. Do you understand me? And it's reasonable. Again, this comes back from coaching. They're called SMART goals, and I can't remember what all of these things.
Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, is the idea of instantiation, is it to help focus the desired positive change. I think that's the
Yeah.
problem I'm having with it. I'm trying to get it in the process line, and so is that what it's for?
Yeah, it's trying to focus it.
All right.
Sometimes people will come back with, something that's just so, I want my whole life better, or that really needs work,
So
right? Or I want to have the best lover in the world. Well, no, let's maybe just say you are dating 2 candidates or something, okay? And again, Kat, say that again. So smart, measurable.
It's a specific, measurable,
Achievable.
realistic, and timely.
Yeah. That's really where that comes from. I had forgotten all about that, but I learned that in my 350 hours of coach training.
That's where the whole idea about instantiation comes from.
That and solution-focused therapy, which is very much about this idea that you can't solve the problem from within the problem space.
Right. So does what comes out of this, the conversation to instantiate it, does that actually sometimes become your desired positive change?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that. It's understood that it is an instance of the slightly larger goal, like losing 5 pounds a month is an instance. That's why I call it instantiation. It's an instance of this larger thing. But this is what we're shooting for right away. This is that concrete thing we can feel and measure and is reasonable and, you know what I mean, doable.
Yeah. Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Kat and Linda, because I can't ever remember what those initials stand for. Anybody else want to, any more comments? Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, so if in fact you get to a place where it's like clearly things are not moving and you have decided, okay, I may have gone off in the wrong direction, do you take the parts or the object persons and kind of just put them all to the side and start all over? Or is it dependent and you say, okay, well, maybe if I just reduce the number, then maybe I can narrow it so that I can get the effect that I want, or I
In
can
any
move
of
this system in a way.
any of the above. Like the narrowing is what I would call a rep change, a representative change. It's like, let's pare this down. This energy is somehow not central here and it's confusing things. And that isn't, if you're in that state, you're not kind of a total dead end or anything. But don't be afraid of a total dead end. And don't be afraid of, I've had people who come in to do workshops where we're putting things on not workshops, constellations, we're putting things out on the floor in my workshop room in the basement. And they set up the solution. They set up wishful thinking. Oh, mom loves dad, so we'll put that one in, and I want to be close to my goal. And I'll just to literally say, okay, go pick up every single piece and move it someplace. And don't think about it. Just scramble the hell out of it. And then we'll start to get a picture of the problem. I trust random. I really do. Does that make sense? I mean, you trust random if you're doing a tarot reading. You trust random if you're doing an I Ching. We are so locked down in our materialistic worldview that random is often the only way that spirit can talk to us. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you might, and it might be that 1 or 2 object persons from the first constellation maintain their same, represent the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But don't be afraid of you got a picture of it. Just take a picture of it. You can always reference it again or set it up again if you need to. But if you don't worry, whatever you did in the first constellation that somehow was starting to work, it'll show up in the second one. Be experimental, especially in this kind of work where you're working with yourself, or you're working with some friends or family where you're not like, getting paid to do it. For God's sake, please be experimental. Right? Okay. So, anything else before we shift gears? Okay, so I forgot to do this last time, and it's mea culpa for that, but we're all taking our little vow of confidentiality right now. Everybody raise your hand or speak out, and everyone please put on your couch side manner and speak carefully and respectfully, because we're dealing with somebody's real stuff here, right? We are giving conscious, loving attention to one of our class members here, and this is real work. So I'm going to start out, and what I'll do is I'll read a synopsis of the background here, and then give Kat room to kind of pop in, 2 or 3 times or whatever to expand on stuff. She actually wrote more, and then I pulled some of it out just to keep it small enough. Plus which the other stuff she can say aloud, and it's better that you hear it part from the paper and part from my reading. Okay, we ready to go here? All right, so ground yourselves. And so I've struggled with my weight and trauma around it for most of my life. I was put down regularly for being too big. And too big here means not just physically, it means big emotionally, big empathically, big intelligent-wise. 52 now, and spent most of my 30s and 40s being morbidly obese. I'm in business with my brilliant but ADD husband, who loves me but fails very often in terms of timely performance and support. Lack of support around being large in all these senses has been a core spiritual challenge in this life. You want to add anything, or?
No, I think you've covered.
You don't have to. I just want to make sure you have the opportunity. Okay, so today I've lost 110 pounds, which is huge. I mean, in a good way. That's a major achievement. And I'm about 20 pounds from the goal my doctor set. I had been losing about 5 pounds per month until I fainted and fell from my seat at a restaurant on the full moon of 3/1/18, so March 1st. This was a curious thing, falling out of a chair in a restaurant. And then not only was this a fall, but I lost consciousness. I cut my head open. It was a significant cut. It was bleeding all over the place. On coming to, I realized I could leave my body, but chose to stay. It was a very scary ambulance and emergency room experience. And this fall was kind of a tipping point around the business and relationship issues. And it also knocked me off my wait list program for about 6 months. So I gained back 14 pounds, but then have held steady there at 14 pounds since June. Now there's more details to this. Do you want to add any of them?
No, I think you edited all right.
Okay. Well, tell them about the horse.
Oh, so last year, one of the big carrots I had was to be able to ride a horse. It had been, 25 years since I'd ridden a horse in my early 20s, and I was so far above the weight limit. Right, last year I hit the weight limit at the local stables, and I went on one of my best friends and I went on a 2-hour horse ride, and it was really scary for me. The horse was, I was kind of visualizing getting on this big, really gentle horse, and it was a big horse, but he was really bracy and wanted to go faster than I was ready for. Yeah. So I spent the first hour just being petrified.
What is bracy?
And afraid that I was going to fall off.
What does bracy mean? We're not.
Just kind of like just kind of having some attitude, right? Like not necessarily following your lead.
Okay. So what does this symbolize?
The horse.
The whole experience of getting on the horse and
Well, I mean, it was interesting just kind of stepping outside of my anxiety while I was on the horse. I mean, the first hour was rough, but then we rode down on the beach, and I got to the point where I could enjoy it, but I wasn't completely at ease. So I don't know. I mean, it could mean a lot of things, right?
well, to me, it suggests that, you were getting close to your goal and that there's issues of protection involved, right? And
Probably.
so that your body and soul were not ready to go that fast.
Yeah, I've been trying to be real gentle with myself in terms of that. It's like Michael and I had this back and forth in our session last week. He was like, "But you're focused on the weight, Kat." I'm like, "Oh, Michael, I'm not. It's not about the number. I've been working on the self-love and self-accepting thing, but it's about allowing myself. I feel like I'm 90% there to this goal, and I want to give myself the gift of getting there. It's more about allowing myself that gift than a certain number on the scale, because I've been doing that work for a long time about not caring so much about the number.
Yep. Okay. So you just kind of said the last paragraph. I want to give myself the gift of reaching this desired weight goal. This year's fall, which the fall in the restaurant is current circumstances, right? Around this is
Well, yeah, I've got you can see the scar. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's okay. I'm at peace with the scar. I pretend I'm a pirate sometimes, but I'm having some pain on my shoulder, and I had neck and shoulder pain from the get-go, but it only lasted for a couple of months. Like, I was able to get back into. I do Pilates 3 times a week, and I was able to get back into my routine. Oh, look who's here! I was able to get back into my routine within a couple months, and I was pretty much pain-free until some more stress showed up within my relationship, and mostly in the work sector, in August. And I actually fled to Hawaii to get myself, I was really empty and I needed to fill up my tank. But I have had this shoulder pain since then. So I'm going to the doctor to get an order for an MRI tomorrow. So hopefully I'll be able to find out exactly what's going on. But I can't help but, I'm going to take care of the physical piece and check it out and find out what's really happening. But I can't help but see that, one of my patterns throughout my life is to take on what's not mine. I have a pretty challenging family background. There's a lot of mental illness and addiction. And so I feel like I'm the one in the family that feels the things as opposed to denies them. So, I keep on asking myself, what am I shouldering here that isn't mine? And I'm trying to work on that energetically.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So at this point, we are going to go to the screen share. So we'll do a quick run through of the objects. We've got 4 stages here to look at. And so the desired positive change is this star here, losing 5 pounds a month. And I'm going to ask you to start unpacking symbols here in just a minute. So this, maybe we'll look at 2 stages at once here. A little bit smaller, but so this rose quartz was started out as Kat's family of origin, and then by the second stage, that had shifted to mom. And what we have to say here about that, began to feel like the quartz was my mom, who passed away in 1999. Alive, she was always very critical of my weight and my light. But I feel her present more loving now. Clear quartz started out as a wild card, this quartz crystal here. The second stage, it turned into her husband and business partner. And then we need to do a little bit of detail about what we named the Sour 16 and the, where's the Tragic 28. So let me read you those things here. So, you know, we're asking what we're doing. Okay, so we have the desired positive change. We have current circumstances around it. Current circumstances are progress towards the goal. Got it. You know, we got closer at a certain point. The program went bang and fell. Okay, so what we're looking for is what's back there that caused it to fall. What's standing in the way? So when Kat was 16, the summer before I turned 16, I got a job at a burger joint, was very physically active. I lost a lot of weight, was my thinnest ever. I met a guy and had my first sexual experience, which was not that good. Then I came down with mono, Epstein-Barr syndrome. The weight came right back on. I became bulimic. My parents were also in the process of divorcing at the time. So here we have a profound experience around not being heavy. Make sense? So that's what we're calling that the Sour 16 instead, because it should have been a Sweet 16, but right, because it's, you know, it's poetic to say it that way. And then there is.
Can I ask what the object is first?
Yeah.
It's a gym locker. It's a key. It's a lock for when I go to the gym.
Here,
Okay.
Let me give you.
It's a combo lock. It's on its side.
Oh yeah.
Okay. There it
Okay.
is. It's a combination lock. Okay, so that's one thing back there. So what is this? This is a promising overlap. I'm trying to have these little teaching moments here, right? We got the desired positive change. We got some current circumstances around it. We're looking for past parallels that are promising overlaps. And we've got two of them here. So then we go to what we called the Tragic 28 experience, which was at 26, I became certified in massage therapy and vibrational healing. I loved doing the healing work and got fit and comfortable with my body and my sexuality. But the love affair that developed was secret and with a boyfriend of a college girlfriend. A few months after my 28th birthday, my father died of a massive heart attack. The very next day, the secret affair was revealed to my college friend, and the relationship, I guess, with the college friend and the guy, right?
And multiple other female friends. I was totally labeled with the scarlet, you know.
Okay, so a total collapse of the sexual partner, the friend, social support, and a whole lot of shock and judgment from, you know, herself, from myself, speaking as Kat now. The weight came back higher than ever before. I also believe that the stress of this manifested hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's disease. What's Hashimoto's disease, please?
It's when there are thyroid antibodies present in your blood. So my thyroid attacks itself. It's an autoimmune thing. A lot of people who have hypothyroid have also the Hashimoto's.
Okay. All right. So we've given you the background and the layout here, and I would like now to ask.
Can I add one thing, Michael?
You absolutely can.
Between the first and the second photo, the first photo I sent to Michael. The second photo was taken after my house was cleaned last week, and the house cleaners actually. I came back and this was here, and I thought, oh crap, and then I thought, wait a minute, this was supposed to happen. So this was kind of jumbled for me.
Yeah, I trust that stuff. I've
Yeah.
seen it a lot.
That's right. Yeah.
So this was the original layout. This is what the cleaning lady did. And this was after some conversations, and we got the promising overlaps in. But what I want you to do now, class, please, is just we can look at these first two stages at once, I guess.
Can I please know what the object is for the Tragic 28?
Yes. Oh, yeah, we need to look at that closely. Okay, let me keep it expanded. You want to tell them what that is, Joe?
Wow.
It's a little Mexican skull that I got on vacation last year. It was left on our. They gave us little Mexican gifts every night, and that was left on our bed.
That's the Day of the Dead thing,
Mhm.
right? They have a very different relationship to,
Yeah.
what's it called? The Dios del
Dia de los Muertos.
There you go. Thank you. Anyway, that's what that is. It's looking this way.
De los muertos.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question, please, Izzy?
Please.
So I'm wondering why there isn't a rep for the recent falling and hitting the head.
I thought about that too, and it's a good question, and maybe it belongs in here. So let's just keep that in our minds.
Okay.
I thought about that too.
I actually did too, especially when I was doing the write-up.
Yeah, maybe there needs to be a rep for it. It could be, but what I would like you guys to do now, please, is do the popcorn thing. Just start speaking out. Talk to me about, size, shape, colors. We'll look at both these at once. Remember that, this went from the family of origin to Mom. This went from a wild card to John. But start with this. What does this arrangement look like? What does it say? Be the butterfly and just start grabbing some symbols here.
The biggest thing for me is the DPC being a star. You get a gold star when you achieve, what you set out to achieve, especially, that's often a thing for kids. They get gold stars. So it's like a badge of honor, almost like a sheriff's badge as well. So that was the first thing that struck me. And that it just classically in geometry, just having the wild cards and Cat's family either side looked like supportive wings, but of course that changed somewhat in the second one. Anyway, that was just my
Okay.
first.
That's fine. Somebody else, please.
When I looked at the position of Cat, the family of origin, and the wild card, I got a sense of a squeeze.
Yeah, can you speak a little louder or get a little closer?
Okay, I'll get closer. In stage one, Cat between the family of origin and the wild card. When I looked at that, I got the sense of Cat being squeezed.
Okay.
Which is like the opposite of being supported. I got something negative. Like that wild card is pointed right at her head.
Right at my shoulder.
Oh, right at your shoulder.
It's pointed. Yeah, it's pointed right close to her left shoulder, which is the one that hurts.
Actually, I think it's pointed more to the impact on her head.
Mhm.
Well, it's still okay, but it's still on the left side.
Yeah.
I too don't necessarily see this as a supportive arrangement.
Yeah,
But is that the left side or is that the right side?
Well, is the Cat, tell him, is the
It's the left side. The turtle's head is right there. The turtle's head is facing the DPC, so that would be the left side.
oh,
It's
it's
a turtle.
Yeah, slow and steady.
Sorry, I should have said
Ah.
that.
Okay.
It's a ceramic turtle. So
So,
Okay.
the other, one other thing for me with this star, I associate the star with being really young, with like grade school stuff, because that's when you got them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which suggests a kind of social, acceptance, or what I mean. You get stars. You get stars when you do good in class, and you are a star when you get the star and all that stuff.
What is the star made of?
leather.
Oh,
Is
Oh,
it sequins
I
on it or something?
I think it was either a belt buckle or a wand or something. I honestly can't remember what the origin of it was, but I remember keeping the star because I liked it.
So, I mean, keep going. There's more to say about this.
So the relative size of things. I mean, the turtle is larger than the other pieces, but relatively everything is about at the same level. I mean, the DPC is flat, but it also seems like the wild card, the crystal is on its side,
Yeah.
and the family of origin is a stone. The crystal is another. It's a rose quartz, so it's also of the earth.
How many living things do we have here?
One.
No, it's the ceramic turtle. I mean, are we considering that the ceramic turtle is alive?
Well, it represents an alive thing, right?
Yeah.
It's also, I mean, what kind of, as a representation of a turtle, what is this thing like?
Couldn't tell it was a turtle.
Me either.
Why? Why?
Why
There's a
couldn't we recognize it as a turtle?
Yeah, there's a reason why.
There's no shell.
There's no shell.
Yeah.
There's no shell, and it almost looks like a person, except for the appendage in the middle, which looks rather phallic.
The only thing that protects this is its size. It doesn't, it to me, it appears soft and vulnerable, and it started out that way as clay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything around it is hard, elemental, pointed.
So Kat's family of origin starts out in a kind of a semi-supportive position in stage 1 and evolves into something that's really more of a block between Kat and her DPC in stage 2.
Yeah.
Appearing as her mother, and you know what kind of block, kind of a rock block.
And I also can feel with Kat, the rep that you've chosen for you, can really feel your, like, I think about that object moving, and it's kind of lumbering and not graceful, and except of course if it's swimming in the sea, then it's a whole different ball game. But if it's actually on land, and I'm wondering if that kind of reflects your personal feeling around your ability to move in space, and yeah, I feel that shows us how you feel about yourself. Does that land, Ken?
How are you doing, Kat?
I'm good. Your question made me curious. I do enjoy being in the water, and you know that. I think you remember that about me, Izzy.
Yeah.
I love, my biggest passion is to be in the water with dolphins and whales. But I chose this because of the symbol that the turtle is, and this process is not about fast for me anymore. It's and when I started looking at my weight as as my real spiritual lesson, and it really comes down to, I've got to love myself through this. It's a different approach. So I chose the turtle for, at least consciously, right? For the slow and steady, eventually I'm going to get there. That's why I picked it. But it is an awkward looking turtle.
I mean, we're just unpacking more of the symbols, right? Your slow and steady makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But to me, this turtle, it looks, it looks, you know, I guess the best word is, you know, vulnerable in a sense, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have any, it doesn't have strong, powerful limbs. It doesn't have a shell. It's got a lot of surface area. It can absorb a lot, but it's not particularly well defended or super well defined, if that makes sense.
Ceramic.
And again, what we're supposed, you know, what we're looking at here is supposed to be the problem. So this is not a bad thing that we're seeing this stuff.
Yeah. It also has a pink hue, it seems anyway, in the pictures, that it has a similar coloration to the family line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So stage 2, this has moved back, but has not changed its orientation at all. It's now kind of pointing at the foot, but it's pretty much exactly in the same direction. This has moved further away. Mom has moved in front. Cat has moved back. And also for me, this starts to,
Mm-hmm.
Me
I
too.
start to wonder,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
what's this?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know it's part of the background, but we've said before that, you know, the backgrounds often get involved. Anything more to say about this one, this stage? Is it more or less, I mean, is it more problematic or less problematic than the first stage?
It seems more problematic.
I would think so.
More, but it feels truer, having been randomly selected by the field.
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh.
The other thing that I'm curious about is, Michael, you said that any time a parent, that we're facing a parent or something like that, it definitely represents a block, which is what Randy was saying. And it seems like that it's opposing, or it's definitely, I don't know,
There's,
there's something about it.
I mean, it's not only blocking, but what do we tend to say in constellation work when a child is facing a parent?
They're parenting the parent.
That the child is in some manner trying to take care of the parent or please the parent or be the parent's version of him or herself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is an interesting, because the rose quartz is a profound symbol of compassion and love,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a bit of a mixed message. But how does that strike you, Kat? I mean, is there any sense in which you tried to, you know, were you in any sense parenting Mom?
My mom was not sober until I was 7. So there was a lot of, you know, my older sister parented me more than she did often. I was cooking meals for the family, you know, before I was 10, kind of thing. Yeah, they're definitely.
Okay.
Wow.
So then you're in an emotional position of having to parent the parent in a sense. Okay. Again, this is not about whether the child does chores or not. It's about what role the child is fulfilling in so doing. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Everybody can help, but if they help as children, that's one thing. If they help as substitutes for what parents can't do, and that's different.
I'm looking at John and I'm thinking, instead of him pointing at the foot, I'm viewing it as maybe he's drawing a line behind which she cannot go back or cross over. And that's the support he's giving her as much as he's capable of at this point.
I find that interesting, because I look at this and I feel like this quartz is projecting a line out here, kind of, you know, almost projecting a barrier out. And so if this is moved back, it becomes, on that interpretation, this particular blossom flower, this becomes a, okay, well, I'll try to backstop you for whatever. And this is just, you know, does this mean anything or not? We don't know yet. What about this? Anything? The star has moved over closer to this sort of spreading. It's a delamination of the finish, I think, or something, right, on the table. But it does it mean anything to us? It may not.
It feels like it does, but I can't actually put my finger on it. Like it feels a bit sinister and like it's creeping.
Yeah, I was
But
thinking.
I can't actually, get anything else but that. I can't.
It's interesting because it's refraining from creeping over here. It's spreading over here.
Yeah.
But it's holding back here. If this was a liquid, say, that was just spreading.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kat, do you have any thoughts about this yourself?
I questioned it. I mean, it's water damage from the door. The sliding door was open, and it was raining one day, and you know that it's water damage on wood. So it feels liquidy to me.
Linda here. I think it's sort of cloudy. You could say it's cloudy.
That too. Well, water is this turtle's element. These things are very different from the turtle. These are all elemental. Even a star is not stone, but you know what I mean. It's not animal, plant, human type stuff.
Well,
okay.
at the moment she's a fish out of water, and you could say that she's moving towards her element, which is water, and her desired positive change is also up at that level of where the water is, and she's sort of headed in that direction. But at the moment, her mum's in the way.
This is true.
That resonate at all, Kat?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, she was not easy when she was alive. I think I picked up a lot of her feelings of shame around weight and being female and sexuality, that kind of stuff.
Was she heavy, Kat?
She was never she was never morbidly obese. But yeah, she gained and lost weight a couple times. You know, I think right before I was born, she had lost 30 or 40 pounds. Looked great.
And then what?
And then the contraceptive foam didn't work. And I came along 9.5 and 11 years younger than my siblings.
Contraceptive.
So I don't know. I used to have just a lot more angst, and she's been gone for 20 years. And really, I just feel like now I just feel like she's present. And I mean, one of the things I asked you asked me to spend some time with each of with the constellation. And so when I stepped into Mom, you know, I sensed that it's really important for her to understand, it's important to her that she understands that I understand that she loves me. And, you know, and that, you know, some of the ways that she expressed her concern, you know, negated that. So I mean, I said, what does it need to get, you know, I said, Mom, what would it take to have you come and support me in a different position here? And that's what she said. She said she wanted me to, it was important that I knew that she loved me.
That's the rose quartz aspect, I would guess. Right? Okay, so I don't know whether we should just go straight to,
Yeah.
nothing has moved. None of these guys here have moved. So we can, I think,
Michael, I've just
no,
seen
wait a
something.
minute. This is,
Express.
go ahead. Somebody
Go
else
on.
have,
Oh, I just wanted to say that I kind of only just seen that the table is backed into a corner, so there's no going back, which is a good thing.
is it
Maybe.
against the wall or is it in a corner?
It's against a wall.
Yeah, that's just
Oh,
a
it's
shadow
not-
there.
Oh, that's a shadow. It's not a corner. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you also can't see from that perspective. You can't see from that wall kind of blocks.
No, it's not a wall. There's not two walls here.
There's only
we
one
just,
wall.
Oh,
So
okay,
you
so
could
to walk around it.
stand behind you, Kat. Then could you? Can you? You
I
can
can't.
stand.
There's there's not enough space to stand behind it, but I could get a different shot of it from an angle like in front of it, behind it, but getting the front end.
it is, you are constrained from looking at it from your object person's perspective. There's not enough.
That's what I meant.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing before. It's like I don't get a sense of how it looks to you, Kat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what we're going to try to do here is all we, do our, gather our flowers, put some bouquets together, and then ask, this constellation, just like Gwen's, is going to go forward. And we're basically here to help it, if we can shed any light on how it might go forward and things like that. Okay, now I was going to say we didn't really need to look at this, but actually, this is one of those kind of, not a circle, but an oval. And I've said to you a number of times, when you get you get a pattern like this, because I mean, if there's flow in this, it would seem to go kind of like that, right? I mean, that's the way I see it, because this is the strongest pointer, and this kind of points. So this is a circular flow here. And so then we have this central space, which I have tried to say to you, always ask if there's anything in the middle of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we come back here, there's the thing in the middle of it. All right, let us now compare these two symbols, please.
The sour 16, I wonder, one interpretation is that, a code got put in then, a particular code got put in. Now they're actually reprogrammable, but maybe it's just stuck, that kind of stuck you in that code. There's only one.
So remember that this was a first sexual experience, which was not that good, and an immediate descent into, mono and Epstein-Barr. Did that put a lock on anything?
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of fun the rest of high school. It pretty much locked me down.
Mom and Dad were also on the verge of, divorcing. They were divorcing in process, I think, during this whole thing, and finally completed it that year, I think, or something.
It was completed when I started high school, but it was all based around when I turned 18, because there was property involved, but they weren't going to kick me out of my house, but there was a lot of pressure around that.
Yeah. So how do we read this lock then? What got locked?
Emotion locked down.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of experience? We have two things going on here. Very active very thin, and sexuality.
Sex is dangerous
Yeah, something
in
about
that
And is dangerous. It's not safe.
Yeah, I would say something like that, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Not safe to be thin.
we
oh,
the moving towards being thin, being sexually attractive, and that being okay, kind of got locked down. What sense does that make?
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
But what Izzy said is interesting too. It's a code.
Mhm.
All right, but we have two parts to this thing.
this lock to me. When I look at it, it looks like a rat.
Mhm.
It's got a
The
long,
tail.
it's got a long tail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In that case, it's moving right to left, right?
Mhm.
Yes, moving between to step in the way.
Right. If that's a pointer coming out of it, then it's pointing around the circle towards John.
Yeah.
Okay, but now we're comparing these two. So we've unpacked this one a little bit. What about this one now?
The
Hard to see it, but you can.
so the lock, the skull are sort of, well, you know, if you take the lock from, if you include the whole piece, they're in a line towards the turtle. They're lined up. Something that's been resonating with me is that both the Sour 16 and the Tragic 28 had to do with sexual encounters.
Mm-hmm.
And the turtle is naked. It looks so vulnerable to me.
What is the most outrageously decorated thing in this constellation?
The tragic 28, and it's in the center,
Mhm.
and it's the symbol
But I mean,
of
there's a huge amount of stuff to say about this symbol.
yeah, it's a symbol of death.
Let's get going here. What is it? It's death.
It's also ceramic.
I think I'm not sure what's underneath it, but all the colors are beaded.
Oh, wow.
Beat it.
Oh, which the
Remember again,
DPC.
Michael?
Mm.
So we can get a good look.
Sorry, I'll go back in
Yeah,
again.
I can go get it. Shall I go grab it?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Kat.
Okay, I have to go upstairs. I'll be right back.
Well, wait a minute. Hey, Kat.
Yeah.
Make sure that when you put it back, you put it back exactly the same, okay?
Okay.
Put a penny there or something. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
I'll put
looking-
this there instead.
You know, before you go, what is it looking at?
It's looking that I think the two traumas are looking directly at each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
I
certainly.
mean, that's what it feels like to me. And that's what it looks like from above it.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
So fascinating. It's keeping.
All right. Listen, I'll be right back too. I gotta just run and I'll be right back while she's gone.
Okay, I'm gonna go get some water.
Jam me something. Just kidding. It's late. Izzy, what time is it in Australia where you are? Are you there? Oh.
Michael took a break as well.
Okay. So this is, I took some pictures. It might actually be easier for me to send him the pictures. That's what we were doing when we did the constellation. I don't know if you guys can see that.
That looks a lot different
It does.
when it's in your hand.
Yeah.
It's either ceramic or plaster.
So let
Probably
me,
plaster.
let me get rid of the screen share so you can.
So it's either ceramic or plastic, and it is beaded.
Everybody needs to put it on speaker view so that you get a big picture of it.
Speaker view.
Up in the right-hand corner, at least on my machine.
If
Okay.
it says pin video, you just have to click on cat and then say pin video.
Or just,
Well, you don't want to do that
Oh,
because then you'll
okay,
have to
that's
unpin.
that's what makes it big.
yeah.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
There we go.
There, just you keep talking, Kat. And this
Okay.
thing will
Yeah,
stay.
I'll keep on talking. So it's got beautiful colors, you know, really bright greens, blues, yellows, orange.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everybody got a good look at that? Okay, so we're,
Interesting that it represents such a tragic thing when it's so bright and fun and colorful.
Well, there was, you know, there were still gifts from that relationship.
well,
I mean, it, you know, you know, everything has positives and negatives, right?
yeah, but this is especially, if this puts a lock, I mean, to me, this says being thin, having sex is dangerous. This says being thin, having good sex is fucking deadly.
Mm-hmm.
Really deadly. It's beautiful, but look out. Because it will cost you all your social relationships, cost you the relationship itself, and it will send you into a major tailspin. I mean, they both were tailspins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also that, you know, even more on top of that, that it looks so beautiful, and yet
It was beautiful.
yeah.
And yet it was an affair that somehow, you know, crossed some social boundaries. And
May I ask Kat a question?
Mhm.
That would you have an intuitive, spontaneous sense that if you were to put an object to represent the incident of falling off the chair in the restaurant, do you have a sense where that would go?
Or maybe
Yeah.
what object it would be?
Yeah, so I've got a big stone that's a ruby with zoisite. That's a shamanic stone, and that's what I saw when you asked me first. And I think it would kind of go. It would go on another point. It would make a triangle with the lock and the tragic 28. So it would be over to the right and down a bit.
have I got the cursor in the right place?
No, the opposite, right there. Yeah, yeah. Maybe a little bit further down to the right a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go here.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring that in right now because we don't have time to complicate things. It may need to come in. I'm not saying it doesn't. All right, so look, we have Kat here. Oh, one question. Is it in any way possible that your dad was somehow emotionally close to you in a way that he wasn't emotionally close to your mom?
We were incredibly close when I was younger.
Okay. And then what happened to puberty?
It blew apart.
Okay. So being the secret lover of your friend is like that, you know, being the emotional recipient of your dad's love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which maybe mom wasn't getting in some sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then the fact that it stops at puberty, this is one of the most damaging things that happens in these puritanical families and everything, is like fathers who are really close to their daughters, puberty hits, and oh my God, all sorts of terrible stuff happens because the guy does not know what the fuck to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he withdraws his support or gets lost, or I've seen cases where he beat up his daughter, and that was you know, it was that instead of, it was better than fucking her. Do you understand me? I mean, the men cannot cope with these emotions. They don't know what the hell to do. And why? Because they don't have the connection with their wife. And the daughter has been filling that emotional space. And when it then becomes possible for the daughter to fill the physical space, in addition to the emotional space that the wife isn't fulfilling, you get all sorts of trouble. All right, so we need to now, and I mean, we're gonna hang on here for a little bit. What, you know, if we start looking at like what needs to happen here, or what, how does this move? What do we look to see happen here? We've got, look, we see the dynamic plain as day, right? If we went around and picked up each one of these pieces and spoke its piece,
Yep.
you know, I can say, you know, I could say pretty much what I think mom is saying. I can say pretty much what I think the Tragic 28 is saying. I've said it to you. You know, one put a kind of, one said being thin, mobile, attractive is dangerous. Then the next one said being thin, mobile, and attractive is truly devastating. I mean, deadly. Right? So one approach to working with this is simply to state those things. Does that make sense? For you, Kat, to go around and state the dynamic. Just put it out. Have the system say what's happening in it.
Acknowledge what is.
Yeah. That's one step.
I have a blossom. I believe that the alignment of mom and the Tragic 28, the symbol of death, and they are both in a position that really blocks Kat from getting to her DPC, raises the question of to what extent she has to deal with her mother's death to achieve her DPC.
How you feel about that, Kat?
I have more freedom and peace with my mother than I did when she was alive. I mean, at this point, I feel pretty I feel pretty good with her, actually. I feel like she's tried to show up in a way that she couldn't when she was alive. And I feel more support, but I think it's really interesting that she's in that spot right there. Mm-hmm. And it's not the spot that I put her in, right? This was the spot that my cleaners put her in.
It's something that needs to be cleared, I think.
Yeah.
There's a reversal of the parenting that needs to be, a healing sentence that needs to be.
Yeah, healing sentences. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is there something your mom needs to say or you need to say?
What do you think it would be that you would need to say if you wish to go
I just, I thank her for life, and I want to give her back her shame that I've been carrying for her.
Okay. And then you add this, please support me if I get skinny, beautiful, and however you want to put it, in honor of all that you went through to give me life. Mm-hmm. Follow?
Yeah.
But now this is a wonderful example. So let's do this visioning thing. Here we see a dynamic, and what I told you was you look at the position, look at the situation you have here, and then you, okay, how would these things have to be arranged in order for this to look like support? What would have to be where? We don't know how it's going to get there yet. We don't know what emotions are going to have to be dealt with to get it there, but what would it look like?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of almost everything behind her.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Perhaps John next to her.
Yeah, that was my thought. Yeah.
With the symbol of the turtle with cat symbol, I'm just seeing, if that just turned a little tiny bit, it could swim right between mom and Project 28. They would all be behind her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could just move right up that alley.
There's a,
See, the goal is so damn close, right? It's so much closer than it's been. You know, it's
look, there's, we're going to run out of time in a minute. There's a clearing, you know, there's some healing sentence to do here, right?
Mhm.
There's clearly some kind of work to do
Mhm.
around each of these,
Mhm.
right? Which may be healing sentences or maybe, you know, tapping or something, right? Because these are very strong experiences,
Yes.
especially this one.
And we've addressed some other past trauma too, Michael, that has cleared.
Can I
But-
say something? Oh, sorry, Michael.
Yeah, let me say, and then we'll switch to you. You know, in terms of minimal movements, like one way to arrange these things would be to get all these things over behind her.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the best approach. She's still pretty damn far away, right? What Margie said is, if there's this emptiness right here,
Mm-hmm.
if she was to move like this, and this move, you know, I would be looking to somehow find, you know, if in terms of visioning a solution, I would be wanting to see if there's some way that I can help this system get her up here, which
Yeah.
puts mom behind her, which puts this in the past. Maybe John needs to, you know, John needs to come up. This might need to move, but I would not want to, for example, take all of these and put them behind her. You
No.
see what I mean?
Yeah, she's too far away from the.
But this is also what I mean about minimal movements. Do you understand me? This would be a very kludgy way, speaking in terms of computers programming, a kludgy way to restructure the system. This would be kind of a cool way to get her up here. What we have to do to get her up here, that's another story. And maybe we have another representative that needs to come in. Kat, what's missing here, if anything?
I'm not sure there's anything missing.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe
I think what
maybe
I
the
think,
small-
what I feel, what is really missing is her dad. I feel that.
Mm.
I think that will be giving a totally different dynamic and bringing.
I think that's a very interesting comment.
Mm.
We do have an interaction with dad that was very close until puberty and then went away. We do have dad having a heart attack right after, you know, Kat's affair, you know, positive affair with a secret lover. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean that the skull represents the death of a dad as much as it represents the death of the relationship.
Yeah.
And,
But also it's like, okay, the secret emotional spouse actually had good sex and became, you know, bonded to somebody else and not true to dad anymore. Does that make sense?
could you say that again?
Well, if there was if it is true that Kat was fulfilling the emotional needs
Oh yeah.
that the wife was not, then we have the emotional spouse situation. Puberty comes along and dad just turns off because now Kat is a young woman capable of fulfilling the physical space of the wife as well as the emotional, and that can't happen. But the bond is still there. And so when that young, that former emotional spouse goes off and actually gets emotionally and sexually involved with another man, dad's abandoned. What sense does that make?
Look, I'm lost in that last just 2 sentences. Either I missed something from before.
Anybody else get it and want to put it in different words?
So I wonder if it's not dad's being abandoned.
That's what I thought I said.
Yeah, but I'm saying not that dad's abandoned, it's that Kat is leaving him.
That's fine.
That's what he means, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Either one of those, she's betrayed him. She's been inconstant, disloyal in some sense. Kat, are you okay?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, about 4 minutes, we got to stop here.
I really want to say something that's come up for me about the
Yes.
The symbolic alignment between the DPC and the skull and the beads and how pretty and shiny pretty they are. And Kat,
yeah.
I'm just wondering if your desired positive change is to actually feel as delicious and beautiful as you felt just before the tragedy. So in that relationship, just before your dad died, while you were in the middle of that beautiful love affair, Slimmer.
Yeah, actually, for the longest time until recently, I had a picture of me during that time on my refrigerator as an incentive. So, in my adult life, although I feel pretty good in my skin right now, pretty comfortable. I'm not very far in weight from that period. Maybe 10 pounds, and I'm really tall. I'm 6'2".
Wow.
So 10 pounds is 20 pounds is really not much on my frame. So maybe when I'm almost as fit now as I was then, but not quite. So maybe there's something there.
There just feels like this strength between that object and your DPC, like they're connected for me across that space.
Interesting.
They both have those beaded kind of decorations, right? I don't know what's on the star, but it looks like it's little shiny things.
Yeah.
That was a good observation, Izzy.
This is Julia. Could I make one observation too?
Please.
I don't know if you can. I'm not okay because of the picture. I'm not showing up, I think. Somehow the figure that's representing Kat, I at first thought it was a person lying on their back. So in some ways, because we were talking about it not having a shell and being vulnerable, being clay, and originally quite soft, I kept wondering if it would be, if it could also be thought of as a person lying on their back and kind of swimming backwards, swimming on their back.
Or just knocked flat.
Or knocked flat too. Yeah, I was trying to not be too unpositive, but yeah, knocked flat, knocked back by the circumstances of life. And I wondered whether having a shell or something, if some object could be used to give you protection or something like that in this contemplation. don't
There
know.
are scores on the top of this on the top of the turtle that look like a shell. There's scores into the ceramic,
Oh,
but you can't really. It's not very easily seen.
No, and it's still a kind of amorphous,
Yeah, yeah,
amoeba-like thing.
yeah.
I suggest to you that there might be a rep change.
Okay.
Exactly what I was just about to say. That when it moves,
That
yeah,
when you've done a certain amount of work with this, when you've dealt with this and this and this, in some sense, this might turn out to be something very different,
Okay.
yeah.
right? I mean, a different object person,
Yeah.
like a dolphin or a whale or something that's, or you know what I mean? I should shut up because I'm.
No, I brought some up there too for when we worked together last week, but I ended up not pulling those.
Okay, so I hope we've given you some good ideas,
Yeah.
and
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
we're all very grateful for you sharing this. and
I'm grateful
sharing-
for your input. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being willing to trust us.
I trust you.
It's
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
Okay, we have one more class, and I have a constellation revving up for that. So this is our second to last time together. You've been a really good group. We got one more to go. So thank you all. I hope you have a good week, and many blessings.
I would like to finish by just saying to Kat that I think you are very beautiful. Not like your heart is very beautiful, which is I've met a few times and I've always loved your presence. But I also mean, you know, you have a very beautiful face. You're a very beautiful, shiny being.
Thank you.
I had the experience when you first walked into a room that I was in. I was blown away by just you are 6'2". I mean, and that like I've tried to say before, that can be an enormous advantage.
He's like, use it to your advantage.
No, and it's
I try when
how you carry yourself and how you feel.
Mhm.
I was watching YouTube before.
Mhm.
There's some Joanna something or other blues band, and this just dumpy, very, very obese woman with a guitar down like this with her blues band. I mean, she got up there, and I swear to God, she just blew the socks off of what was it, Walkin' Blues. I mean, Jesus, that lady could play and sing, and it was like she carried herself like a queen. You know what I mean? And her skill and presence and passion were they just rocked. That's what counts, is the ability to be that and express it for all of us. I'm talking to myself too here. All right, I'll see you next week, everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone.
It was
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.